afternoon and welcome to this show where we are highlighting what happened on the evening review, our show here at Namibian Sun. My name is Tewan Jabela and I'll be back after this. Welcome back. One of the highlights of the show this week was sex workers complaining that the current lockdown has affected business in their trade. The workers are complaining first about the slow business in the sex trade, and also complaining that sex work has not been declared an essential service. Here is a clip where Jimama Biekes, our colleague, was speaking to one of the activists in that trade, Mama Africa.
Yeah, it's hard times for us as sex workers in this country. Actually, let me not really talk right currently about coronavirus, but I can remember the time that the president is introducing the field force. The first call was I think the second one was Kalari or whatever. So it's where the things have started, because the harassment has actually started there, and our trade, if it comes to the dollar, is also falling. So nowadays, sex workers was just we all are just doing sex for less than money. And the other man that is really having money has just demanded, maybe coming with 10,000 and telling you that without condom, I can give you 10,000, and with condom, I can give you 1,000. So it was very hard, but I'm so happy for the PrEP that has been introduced to Namibia. So many sex workers is also going on PrEP so that they can prevent themselves from the diseases as well. But if it comes to corona, it's actually a disaster for everyone in this world. And actually our main clients are also foreign men as well, and also Namibian men as well. And if it comes to corona, it's really very hard. The time has got more harder for us. Even the police has been already mandated to also take people from the streets off, and we know already, and few of my colleagues, sex workers, is also calling me during the weekend and telling me that it's very hard for them because they cannot, what they was asking that maybe as a leader, what can I do for them?
Also paying us a visit in the studio this week was Major General Charles Namolo, talking about the importance of the 1st of April in the context of SWAPO's liberation struggle history. This is what he had to say.
First and foremost, 1st April has got two very important events which happened on that very date called the 1st April.
Yeah.
It's a Fool's Day, but these important events which happened were not fools.
Yes.
First is 1983, when we lost our Secretary for Defense, Comrade Peter Enias Nanyemba, who died in a car accident in Lubango on that very fateful day.
Yeah.
Peter Nanyemba is the architect of building a plan to a level where it was a force to be reckoned with. He has created structures, proper structures, for us to be able to face the South African Defence Force. As it's well known that the South African Defence Force was the most powerful defence force on the continent of Africa. And you look at us, we were very small, very young, unexperienced, because the South Africans said also those who fought in the Second World War. We never fought any other war, but this was our first war. plan. So Nanyemba, we always cherish what he did for building a plan in Angola.
Yeah.
He was a visionary man. He was not trained like most of us, but he had that capacity to show as if he was more trained than most of us. He was so talented that Nanyemba is a foresighted man. He was given a vision to see where we wanted to go and what we wanted to achieve. That is Peter Nanyemba. And we always would want to remember him. That's 7 years ago now that he died. So we would want to honor him, especially me. We are the products of Nanyemba.
Yes.
When we became the structures we created, and when we were appointed as you said, I was a former plan chief of staff. We were appointed in the military council. He made it that we as young people were also brought into the military council, because the military council only consisted of the comrades who were there before us, the Mbulungangas, the Horonjabas, and many other comrades, the Dimo, Amambo, and of course Peter Nanyemba himself. So he thought that it was better to reinforce with young blood.
Yes.
So we were young blood. We were taken in 1977.
Yeah.
It was me, it was Shali, it was Philip Ainana, who was late. It was Andrew Intaba, who was also late.
Yes.
It is Kamba Kashirongo is still alive. So these are some of the comrades who were brought in the military council as young people. But with the vision of Nanyemba wanting to see how to rejuvenate the People's Liberation Army of Namibia. So secondly, it's not only Nanyemba, there are two things, as I said. Secondly, is the 1st April 1989.
Yes.
When most of our forces, the last battles which were fought with the South African Defence Force was 1st April 1989. Of course, most of this you know. Yes. There are some now mass graves, like the one at on the Shifirwa. That's the most well-known one. Yeah. There is one also which was just found recently, last year, towards the end of last year, in Kunene. Yeah.
The lockdown that is currently in parts of the country has affected many businesses. Some businesses that we may even consider small, but very, very important. Here is an interview that my colleague Ashley Smith had with a snake catcher.
Yeah, look, obviously I think, in terms of government's decision, it was brilliant, and really the way they reacted was fantastic. Now, unfortunately, we're not listed as an essential service, even though conflict with humans and snakes can end up, with a bite, or the snake can be killed, but the human impact, or the impact the snake can have on humans is far greater. And obviously at this point in time, with the coronavirus outbreak, we want to ensure that people don't unnecessarily end up with bites, and we want to try and avoid that. At this point in time, we're not really responding to snake call-outs, because we're also following the rules and regulations that were set out by government. And I think it's also very important, that as snake removers, that we also remain safe during this period, and that we have to work with people. So what can happen is maybe we can also get infected, and it is completely understandable as to why this is happening.
Also coming into the spotlight this week was complaints by sections of the media about perceived exclusion from an event that took place at State House this week. Here is what myself and my colleague Ashley Smith had to say about the matter.
Look, we discussed before we came to the studio. I think logically I can understand why NBC, One Africa and Nampa were chosen.
Yeah.
You've got two radio broadcast media houses.
Yeah,
I mean
TV.
TV broadcast media houses. And then of course you have a wire service that most of the major newspapers can access in Nampa.
Yeah.
But I also, I'm in agreement with your point that you raised with me earlier in terms of either we exclude everyone, and when we have a situation where State House can make available a live feed themselves and we can all feed from that. In the absence of that, the exclusion does kind of get people's temperatures rising.
Yeah.
And you know how your colleagues in the media can get. So I think they were justified in what they were saying. You also spoke about a media statement that was released by the Namibia Media Trust. So yeah, I think during this time of the coronavirus, people have also raised this issue of kind of liberties and rights being kind of impeded. Yeah. So I don't think the media is immune to that.
I think personally, again, Ashley, my view is that the principle, like you're saying, the principle of that decision was correct. Maybe the manner in which it was executed was not entirely correct, because, and you also need to understand how the media operates to understand, because if you are telling me to feed from my competitor's platform, first and foremost, I don't know whether I will be allowed to do that.
Exactly.
But secondly, we are also competitors. We have different audiences. There are people who actually trust my work.
Yes.
The moment I add a third party in my communication, then it becomes a bit tougher. But I understand. The Namibia Media Trust statement last night was saying essentially that they sensed, but it was also a fair statement to say we have to be very, very careful in times like this. Yes, it's true. We have to be careful about the corona, about the infection, and how crowdedness can lead to further incidences.
Yes.
But that we must also be careful not to use now this lockdown period as an excuse to suppress basic freedoms such as that one.
That is a fair statement, but we must also, Toivo, give kudos to the presidential spokesperson, Alfredo Ngari, for actually asking our questions at the press conference yesterday, and we obviously want to thank him for that.
No, he did very well, because I mean, for our viewers who do not know, so what Mr. Ngari did yesterday is that we are on a WhatsApp group of State House, and different media houses were allowed to post their photos of their questions. on the WhatsApp group, and then the presidential spokesperson who was at the press conference will then relay those questions to State House. So I agree, I mean, to the president and other officials. So in that case, I'm also very, very grateful. Lastly on the show this week was Vilastus Karonda, the president of NANLO, who paid us a visit, and we asked him about a lot of things, including his status in SWAPO. Is he still a member? Is he no longer a member of SWAPO? Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I'm a card-carrying member of SWAPO still. I've not resigned from SWAPO, but I don't think I would want to be associated with SWAPO given its current state. I've not resigned.
What are your issues with SWAPO?
I've not resigned. What are my issues with SWAPO? Look, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to see that there's something wrong with Karutura State Hospital on this side and SWAPO multi-million-dollar building this side. Juxtapose the two, and you would see there's madness. Now, the SWAPO that some of us thought we belong to would not have done that. SWAPO that we thought we knew would not have relied, for instance, on misplaced economic theories that it has relied on now for the past 30 years or so, believing that if you build tall buildings to house government offices, if you build a lot of these things all over the place, you'll create employment. The SWAPO that I thought I belonged to had more depth than this, and it had more empathy. It believed in the future of Namibians and Namibia as a country. It was not a party that would openly just loot, be associated with corruption without even standing up and saying that is not us. You understand? I mean, if this thing of Fish Road did not truly benefit SWAPO, I'm sure SWAPO would have stood up and said, no, that's not us. But I've not had anybody coming out to say that, whether it's Secretary General of SWAPO itself, whether it's the President of SWAPO, they have not done that. So SWAPO in today's days, really, it's more a party of opportunistic politicians interested in looting, have no care whatsoever as to what goes on in the country. And that's why I feel I would not want to be associated with that. I don't think SWAPO in its current form, especially with President Hage at its helm, has done us any good. I think it has done us more damage than good. And to that end, I feel that it has betrayed its historical role. Yes.
This sums up the events as they occurred on the show this week. Enjoy your Saturday.